We got massive Big 12 news today. You've already heard it if you've been around. Massive Big 12 news today. Jake Retzlaff looks like he is transferring from BYU while facing a 7-game, as much as a 7-game honor code suspension at BYU. That's been the number that's been reported a couple of different places. So it would have been over half the season, the suspension for Retzlaff. Are the Cougs' Big 12 chances totally shot? Is it really, as rumored, going to be Notre Dame for Jake Retzlaff here? Let's discuss all the tentacles of this story. All right, so the Salt Lake Tribune has the scoop, or they had the initial scoop here. Now we've had follow-up reporting, but it said BYU quarterback Jake Retzlaff is anticipating a 7-game suspension for violating the school's honor code. Multiple sources told the Salt Lake Tribune. Facing the prospect of missing more than half the 2025 season, Retzlaff has begun telling his coaches and teammates that he is likely to leave the program, a source close to the situation said. Then there was this later on. So if people are wondering about this, and like I saw somebody in the chat earlier say, well, he hasn't been, Taylor said he hasn't been criminally charged. He has not, but I think why this is all coming to a head right now is because on Friday, I see another person like he's not guilty. Okay, well, the honor code is not about whether or not he's guilty of the sexual assault charges. The honor code violation is something that he is now admitted to, and that happened on Friday. So there was a story, and I saw this as it came out on Friday, but Retzlaff's attorney filed an official legal response on Friday, and in that, Retzlaff admits that he had consensual sex with the woman who accused him of assaulting her. So he now, through this case, civil case, I almost say criminal case, through this civil case, he now has admitted to the premarital sex, which is what is against the honor code. So thus the 7-game honor code violation. I want to make sure that's clear for people who are questioning this. At BYU, things are different. Like as a part of the honor code, the students all sign, you're not able to have premarital sex. And that's what's at issue here because he has now admitted that did happen officially in these court filings. So you can remember, and man, I was just reading about this earlier today. BYU fans, you can roast me for this. I'm forgetting the basketball player's name in 2011, where he got into hot water for it during the NCAA tournament. There have been public instances of this before. The honor code, something that you're definitely going to be aware of as a student going to BYU. So I understand BYU fans looking at this and being like, man, you knew the deal. You came here. You did that, and then we all fall in love with you. You have a great season. We're expecting to chase double-digit wins at a Big 12 title again this year, and now when we suspend you for something that you signed up for and you knew was there, you're going to bail. I definitely get how that's got to be maddening, man. That's got to be maddening if you are a BYU fan. I totally get it. Okay. So there's that. That's what's happened here in the last, I guess we're at like 72 hours since the court filings. That's basically how we got to the point where right now we sit with Jake Retzlaff. And there's a lot emotions wise, because I'm sure BYU fans, were preparing for this possibility that he would either be, whether it's going to be kicked off the team, kicked out of school, have some massive suspension, maybe miss the season. Like there are a lot of possibilities that you'd be mulling around in your head. But I would imagine that one of them that you're not going to mull around in your head necessarily is like, okay, we'll hand down a suspension. And then he's going to say, well, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. I have options because he can enter the transfer portal. That's another point of clarification here I should probably issue. He is a grad student. So as a grad transfer, you can actually still enter the portal now, even though for anybody else, it would be closed. So he's got an extra option there with the way that college athletics is situated these days. And thank you, Brandon Davies, suspended in 2011 from BYU's basketball team. Brandon Davies there was the name. So he's got the option to do that. And some of this, it sucks for BYU fans, but I am sort of the mind like this is kind of, the situation we get in college athletics where NCAA does nothing for too long. Now, perhaps the pendulum has swung too far the other way where student athlete, we're beyond what it would even be like in a professional sports league where we have collectively bargained things and contracts and limits on how some of this stuff would go down. I mean, he's got the power and he's got the option to go do this. So that is just the reality here. There's a part of me that says, hey, if the NCAA had been a little more just with the program along the way, and we had more common sense things that had happened along the way with how student athletes can maneuver and get paid and all those different things, like maybe this wouldn't be a scenario that could play out like this, or at least he would be highly more incentivized to just stick it out through the suspension and then play after that. Yeah, I mean, it's all kind of a mess. All seems like kind of a mess, but because what sucks here, if you're a BYU fan, is you look at this. I mean, if he's gonna wind up playing for the national runner-ups from last year, the team that just played the national championship game, and it's a high-profile brand like Notre Dame. I mean, that's got to burn you. That's got to burn you if you are a BYU fan and you're going to have to watch that. Like, now I got to watch him play this year while we have a 3 quarterback competition. And, I'll get to more on that in just a second. It's not like the worst situation in the world for BYU at quarterback, but none of these options appear to be as good right now, keyword being, or key phrase being right now, as what Jake Retzlaff would be for this upcoming season. So, yeah. Let me see. Like, Sam Foster is one of the people I saw on Twitter who was posting about Notre Dame. He had linked to a story. Sam Foster, producer, BYU Sports Nation, sports editor for the official student multimedia news network at BYU. Says an anonymous source, a former football player who is still close with the team, told the Daily Universe that he has Notre Dame as the potential landing spot for Retzlaff. Northwestern and Utah were 2 other programs Retzlaff was potentially interested in, according to Salt Lake City Sports on Twitter. I mean, the Utah thing, other than just proximity, I don't know what really makes sense about it. Like, they have Devin Dampier, and they brought in Devin Dampier's offensive coordinator to run the offense. I don't think that you're going to try and upset the apple cart by bringing in Jake Retzlaff as your quarterback there. And I don't know that Jake Retzlaff wants to go into that situation and say, well, okay, so I don't have a 7-game suspension facing me, but now I've got to compete with this guy, where they just brought in his offensive coordinator to like run this whole show around him. I don't know that that's really what you're going to want to do either. So yeah, there's, I'm going to put a little less credit. And Northwestern, like, if we're talking about Northwestern, I don't know Northwestern's quarterback situation well enough to give you a good breakdown of that. And they're just, frankly, not obviously as enticing or high profile as the other 2 destinations that are mentioned there. But I got to this earlier. I'm going to reiterate this once again. If you're having doubts and skepticism about the Notre Dame thing, this is a story from ESPN.com on April 23rd about Notre Dame's quarterback competition. Obviously, they lose their starting quarterback last year, Riley Leonard, who takes them to the national championship game. Out of spring ball, Notre Dame's quarterback competition will continue into the summer as freshman C.J. Carr and sophomore Kenny Minchey will vie for the top job after Steve Angeli, a senior, entered the transfer portal. Angeli had been Notre Dame's primary backup the past 2 seasons. He announced he was transferring to Syracuse. So they lost the experienced guy who, probably looked writing on the wall and said, I'm not going to win this job. But you got a freshman, C.J. Carr, really talented, sophomore Kenny Minchey, but young guys going after that starting quarterback job. And then in the Deseret News story, who, I think these guys are excellent, do an excellent job covering BYU. Jay Drew, who is, look, I'm reading his byline right here. He's covered Utah sports for more than 30 years. The Deseret News, he says, Retzlaff has cleaned out his locker at the student-athlete building on the Provo campus and is expected to announce early this week that he will play for another school, a school one source noted that is, quote, in desperate need of an experienced college quarterback. So I'm just saying that seems to match up here with this story about a freshman and a sophomore and a senior leaving at Notre Dame, that they may feel like, hey, we need a veteran quarterback to come in and maybe be the guy, maybe not, but at least be there to provide the competition. So that's when I started reading this, I understand we're still very much in the rumor phase here, but when I started seeing the Notre Dame rumor flying around and then I pieced that together, I read the Deseret news story. I said, I mean, this seems like that's kind of what the insinuation is right there. Now, maybe there is another school that is in desperate need of an experienced starting quarterback that could be here and could be the answer, the response to this. Anyway, BYU fans, I feel for you. I absolutely feel for you. This is a potentially awful, like almost worst case scenario way for this to end for BYU fans. So that sucks. I mean, there's nothing more to it. That sucks. You did nothing as a fan. This is all about actions that Jake Retzlaff took himself. It's all about a system in the NCAA that affords just a ton of freedom and flexibility at any time for, the student athlete here, as we have, perhaps seen the pendulum swing a little bit too far the other way. And you're just kind of at the mercy of all of that right now in a rough situation. Having said that, okay, so BYU looks like they're going to be without Jake Retzlaff. What do you do next at quarterback? Like, does this immediately mean that BYU is not a Big 12 title contender? I think that is a question worth exploring. Like, how bad is it? I see James saying here, BYU will be just fine and will probably just upgrade with their own. Is that accurate? Is that something that can happen here in this situation?